Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Last of Us character analysis. We're getting back on this. We took that break from content that 1 week, but then we're back with it. So today we're going to be talking about Abby, and we're just about to wrap up The Last of Us character analysis. Actually, we got a few more characters to go, and then we'll be wrapping it up and moving on to the next game. Now I have plans for games, character analysis games. This series is probably going to go on for a long while because especially since we have new games coming out. Definitely Modern Warfare 2, I'm going to be doing a character analysis of, for the characters in that game, for the campaign. So definitely just future things ahead, just to kind of spot it out. But yeah, a few more characters left to go for The Last of Us. So today, Abby. Now, Abby is a huge character. She plays a huge part in Last of Us Part 2, which is, what we're going to be focusing on. Now, it's, you know, you get to play as her in the second half of the story. Um, for The Last of Us Part 2. Now, my first playthrough, I absolutely hated Abby, and I think that's pretty much what all Last of Us fans thought their first playthrough. And I still do hate her, for a lot of different things, for obviously what she did to Joel and, what she did, but it's understandable, But yeah, obviously, like all these character analysis, spoilers are ahead for The Last of Us Part 1 and 2. Primarily for this one is Part 2. So if you haven't played Part 2, don't watch this video. Um, Now, like I said, Abby plays a big part in Last of Us. Part 2. Now, she kills Joel, which is why pretty much everybody hates her. Now, in the beginning of the game, Abby kills Joel just for no reason. She knows his name, and that's all we know, for first impressions of her. Now you get to play her as her briefly for the beginning of The Last of Us Part 2, but you get to play as her, later on, and we'll get to that. But first impressions, she kills Joel just brutally with a golf club, and it was rough, and it was a really sad moment, and seeing Joel die like that, and seemingly for no reason, nobody had a clue of why she killed him. Just hunted him down to Jackson and killed him for no reason, and of course, Ellie went to go revenge her in Seattle, which is where she's based. Ellie went to go kill her, basically, for revenge. And we're not going to be talking about Ellie's part because we already did an Ellie character analysis. But we're not going to be talking about Ellie's part, like, um, what leads up to, how Ellie finds her and stuff. But we're all going to be talking about, the final fight between Ellie and Abby. But primarily, more we're going to be focused on Abby's days. So if you didn't know, in The Last of Us Part 2, there's days. So it's Seattle for Ellie now. It's Seattle day 1, day 2, day 3, and I think there's day 4. Then that was 8. I think there's 4 days. And then it switches to Abby after they get to the movie theater. Then it stops. Now that's the halfway point of the story. And then the other halfway point, you kind of reset. It's Seattle day 1. So when Ellie was first arriving in Seattle, you could play as Abby and see what Abby was doing while Ellie was first arriving in Seattle on day 1. So it's the pretty much the second half of the story when you play as Abby. So and not a lot of people want to play as Abby, which is understandable. Um, they didn't really like it, but yeah, I think it's great. You see the perspective of why Abby did what she did. You get some flashbacks, which we're going to talk about, but let's definitely get into it. Now, I'm getting my info from the Last of Us wiki, which has been a great, helpful site for my all Last of Us character analysis. So, thank you to those people who sponsor, whatever. Abby, or Abigail Anderson, is the playable dual protagonist in Last of Us Part 2, a member of the Fireflies broken by tragedy when Joel Miller killed her father, Jerry Anderson, which is ultimately why Abby killed Joel. So it's just right off the bat, Joel killed her father when, in the first part, Last of Us Part 1. Abby made it her mission to avenge Jerry's demise, which is her dad, Jerry Anderson. However, it is only after her vengeance that she embarks on a journey with companion Lev and rediscovers purpose in her life. And yeah, we're gonna get to more stuff here. We're gonna talk about her background and early life. So before, Abby is the daughter of Jerry Anderson, the head surgeon who worked for the Fireflies and was killed by Joel Miller when rescuing Ellie, Her father raised her as a member of the Fireflies during the apocalypse and took her to live in Salt Lake City, where he worked on making a vaccine for the cordyceps brain infection. Now, her time as a Firefly, Abby tracks her father to the remains of the zoo in Salt Lake City. Having left his station to tend to a pregnant zebra he has been watching, she offers her father a state quarter she found if he will stop abandoning his protective detail, something that they both collect. But he convinces her to help him search for the zebra. They continue through the woods following the zebra's tracks, discovering the afterbirth and realizing that she has already delivered her foal. Soon after they find her tangled in the barbed wire, Owen Moore arrives, frantically looking for Jerry and insisting that he is needed at the hospital. With Owen's help, the Andersons free the zebra, who runs off to join her foal. Owen then informs Jerry that the Fireflies found the girl in the tunnels, referring to Ellie. The trio hurry off towards the hospital. Now, later that evening, Abby brings her father food while he's enjoying or arguing with Marlene over whether they should take Ellie's life in order to potentially create the cure for the cordyceps brain infection. Marlene reluctantly approves the surgery and exits. Abby reassures her father that if she was in the same place as Ellie, she would gladly undergo the surgery to secure a cure. After Joel fights through the Fireflies and escapes with Ellie, Abby runs to the operating room to check on her father. Entering the room, she sees him lying on the ground covered in blood, dead with Owen and Manny. Having also discovered the scene, Abby cries out and Owen consoles her. With both Jerry and Marlene dead, the Fireflies disband, leaving Abby and her friends to head towards Seattle to join the Washington Liberation Front. Upon arrival, the WLF's leader dubs them the Salt Lake Crew. Now, this is her time of joining the Washington Liberation Front in Seattle. Now, soon after joining the WLF, Owen and Abby broke away from their patrol and climbed to the top of the Ferris wheel by the Seattle Marina. Owen rocks the gondola and Abby begs him to stop. Abby suffering from arachnophobia, does not want to look at the view near the edge, which is basically fear of heights. I didn't know how to pronounce that, but she does not want to look at the view near the edge of the cabin. She makes excuses about why she does not want to sit near the edge while Owen teases her. Abby and Owen find a underwater entrance to the Seattle Aquarium. The pair explore, finding a theater for fish and a makeshift dock with a sailboat. Inside the boat, they find evidence of a family living there, including a child's drawings. Abby and Owen continue deeper in the aquarium, finding more evidence of the family that had lived there. Above the lobby, they find the captain of the boat, now a skeleton, with a letter of his hands. The letter reveals that the children ran away to join the Seraphites and left their father for dead. Now, the Seraphites they're a group of people, like, they're kind of out there a bit, but they're the only other tribe. I think they have an island where this, if you guys play The Last of Us Part 2, you guys know, they have their island where the Space Needle is in Seattle, and that's their island, and, they come to the mainland, and Washington Liberation Front, that's their arch enemy, and they fight, you see them fighting a few times, and that's basically who the Seraphites are, basically an arch rival of the WLF, so, Owen, now we're going to get into how she killed Joel. Years later, Abby returns to the aquarium in search of Owen. Owen has made the aquarium something of a hideout, cleaning it up and furnishing it with lights and decorations. Abby and Owen chat and banter through, though quite not as easily as before. In the time since they first discovered the aquarium, Abby and Owen have broken up, and he is now dating their friend Mel. When Abby beats his record for shooting targets with a toy bow and an arrow, Owen hesitates to put her name on the scoreboard, worried that Mel will be unhappy that Abby was here with him. Abby and Owen head to the lounge, which Mel has decked out in Christmas fashion. They share some Owen's homebrewed moonshine and discuss what Abby came for. Though it has been years since the events of Salt Lake City, she has a tip that Tommy Miller is living in a settlement near Wyoming. Hoping this will lead to finally tracking down Joel and Abby wants to see a lead through. Owen discourages this since the lead has maybe no good, and she probably will not get approval from Isaac, the leader of the WLF, to travel so far from Seattle. Abby counters that she already has Isaac's permission, and their ex-Firefly friends join on board as well. Owen concedes and agrees to join their journey to Jackson. By early March, Abby and her crew take shelter in an abandoned lodge near Jackson. Abby jolts awake just before dawn. Plagued by nightmares, she finds Owen already awake and dressed, and he tells her to grab her gear so he could show her what he has found. And Abby, in that instance, it's the beginning of the game where you play as Abby. In that instance, she finds out that Owen got Mel pregnant, which is shocker for her. After a hike through the mountains, they come to an overlook of Jackson. They take stock of the settlement. Owen, noting that an armed patrol has ridden out earlier, seeing how large and well equipped the settlement is, as Jackson seems, Owen is skeptical that they will be able to get the information they came for. Abby insists that they could corner and question one of the patrols. Now, along the way, Abby is forced to make her way through several abandoned houses and encounter groups of runners. Eventually, she crosses horse tracks and follows them toward the lookout. Storm rolls in, and Abby finds herself in the middle of the horde and the infected. She outruns them for a time, but a runner pins her down and attempts to bite her. Joel and Tommy, who are out on patrol, rescue her, and the three of them fight their way back to the horses. Abby suggests they retreat to the lodge as a way to escape both the horde and Storm, and they ride out. Once Abby, Joel, and Tommy make it to the lodge, the rest of Abby's group secure the gates from the infected. Tommy and Joel introduce themselves and thank the group for their help and hospitality. The mood in the room changes. Joel revealing his name, Abby shoots Joel in the leg, and the others subdue Tommy. Joel asks Abby who she is. Abby tells him to guess, which is a very chilling scene. If you guys, Last of Us fans have played The Last of Us Part 2 and seen that when they all walk into the lodge, it's a very chilling scene, and certainly nobody could have been expecting what it was, and it's pretty crazy, and it was, first time I saw that scene, it was crazy. Um, Abby tells him, but he tells her to make her speech and get this over with. Abby orders Mo to tourniquet Joel's leg while he grabs a golf club and then uses it to beat Joel. "You stupid old man, you don't get to rush this," quote Abby, which is, what she said. A while later, Ellie breaks into the room, but Nora and Nick subdue her. Worried more people from Jackson will find them, tells Abby to end it so they could leave. Ignoring Ellie's pleas for Joel's life, Abby smashes his head with the golf club, killing him. The others argue whether to leave Ellie or Tommy alive or not. Owen decides to spare them, and Abby watches as Ellie is knocked out, Joel dead. While Ellie and Tommy are unconscious, Abby and her group leave the lodge before reinforcements arrive. Now, after that, they leave, and then Abby returns to Seattle, still haunted by the nightmares of her father, and she wakes up at the forward base, or I think it's called the forward base, at the Soundview Stadium in Seattle, and they use it. The WLF they use that as a base for camp and stuff. Then they end up leaving, and they leave to go out and scout a few things. I think they get attacked by Seraphites, and This is more forward in Abby's Seattle Day 1 when you get to play as Abby. There's a lot to go through with her story, so I'm just gonna kind of skim it down a bit. Now jumping forward, Isaac, they're in the office on another WLF base. They make it there, and Abby's talking to Isaac about stuff about Owen, because Owen's gone AWOL, and Abby suspects that he's hiding out at the aquarium. So, talks to Isaac. Isaac doesn't want her to go there. Isaac is planning an attack on the Seraphite base to finally end them off once and for all, so the WLF can have Seattle, to themselves. But Abby doesn't listen, and with the help of Manny, she ends up going to. She suspects that Owen's at the aquarium, so she ends up going to the aquarium to look for Owen. Excuse me. But along the way, she gets captured by Seraphites, and later in the night, it's raining out, and she gets attacked, and she almost gets hung by by the Seraphite. And there's another girl there that's getting beaten up and tortured. She's an ex-Seraphite. Her name's Yara, and she did something to, get the Seraphites mad and stuff. And then there's Lev, which he's in the woods with the bow, and he's really good with the bow. So he kills off the rest of the Seraphites. He saves Abby, and he cuts Abby down from her hanging, and they get Yara. Then Yara, Lev, and Abby all make a run for it with, they all make a run to, through the woods, getting chased by infected. And actually, Yara's arm is infected. Well, it's not infected, but Yara's arm is, messed up pretty bad. So, long story short, Abby gets them into a safe trailer. They can only stay for the night before more Seraphites come back. Then Abby pushes onto the aquarium, finds Owen. They talk for a while, and then Owen's planning to go to Santa Barbara, which Santa Barbara plays a good part in the story, where the Fireflies might be regrouping at. And so yeah, Owens wants to go there. He wants Abby to come with him, but she doesn't want to. So Abby spends the night at the aquarium. Then she feels a little bit of guilt, so she goes, on how the kids are doing, which is Yara and Lev. So she goes back to that trailer. She sees that Yara's arm is pretty messed up. So she brings him back to the aquarium. They're both ex Seraphites, and Mel is a doctor, so Mel takes a look at Yara's arm, and she says, it could get compartment syndrome. So Abby goes to the hospital. I forget what it's called, but the Westlake Hospital. I forget what it's called. But she talks to Nora. She gets some supplies. Which is where the Rat King comes into play. Which, if you guys don't know who that is, but that happens down in that basement and Ground Zero and all that stuff. But we're not really talking about that. She gets supplies. She goes back to the aquarium. She patches up Yara and stuff, and that's all good. And then Liv actually runs away to go back to the island. So this is more short to the point. Lev runs back to go back to the Seraphites Island to go look for their mom, and Yara and Abby go after Lev, and then this is actually right in the middle of it where um, the WLF launch their full scale attack on the Seraphites Island. So it's a big war, and Abby and Yara are caught right in the middle of it. And at this point, Abby's kind of like, she's not really part of the WLF. She's just looking to help Yara and Lev get out and help them. And then it's shown when Isaac aims a gun at her, and Isaac actually gets killed by the Scars, which is also what they call him. Isaac gets killed by the Scars, and Abby's basically not WLF anymore. So all the WLF, along with the Seraphites, are after her too, after kind of protecting Scars, which they're not even, they're ex Scars, but in the WLF's eyes, they're Scars. So um, as they exit the building, a WLF soldier discovers Yara and shoots her in the chest. Abby retaliates by knocking the soldier out. Lev does not want to leave his sister behind, but Abby tells him that they need to hurry up and leave. Nearby WLF soldiers are alerted to the gunshots, and Isaac arrives with his squad, but notices Lev behind her and prepares to kill him. He demands Abby gets out of the way or be shot herself. Abby refuses to move, which kind of deems her not really a part of the WLF anymore. So, hours later, Abby and Lev sneak into the theater after the attack and discover that the killer stole Leah's photos of the Salt Lake crew and had been tracking their radio transmissions and positions. As they head down the stairs, they find Tommy Miller talking to himself about a gold necklace he found for Maria. Abby orders him to put his hands up, back away from his bag, and not turn around. She then tells Lev to keep his bow trained on Tommy and for Tommy to get on his knees. Knowing her intentions, Tommy taunts her, so Abby knocks him to the floor. Jesse and Ellie burst into the room with guns drawn. Abby shoots Tommy but in the eye, so he actually survives. Um, and she also shoots Jesse, which is also spoiler alert. We're going to be doing a Jesse character analysis too, so Ellie tells Abby that she knows why she killed Joel to avenge the Fireflies and begs her to let Tommy go. Enraged with what Ellie did and Tommy did to her friends after she spared them in Jackson, Abby prepares to shoot Ellie. Tommy tries to wrestle the gun out of her hands, but Lev shoots Tommy through the leg, allowing Abby to knock him out and shoot him in the head. And this is basically Abby was about to Abby and Ellie had a final fight, basically second to last fight, and then Abby was Abby was about to kill Dina, and it's found out that Dina was pregnant, which Abby or Ellie actually killed Mel, which Mel is also pregnant. So Abby really didn't care, but with Lev watching, she just couldn't bring herself to do it, and they let Abby lets all of them go, and she leaves with last words saying, "Don't ever let me see you again." Years later, I think maybe it was like, I don't think it was really years later. It had to be like a few months later at the very least. Abby went to Santa Barbara to look for the Fireflies after hearing about what Owen said, and Abby, they find a house. They find the house. They gave there. It was something. I forget what it was, but it was a house address that they were given. There was an anonymous tip-off. Abby activates power to the house so she can use the radio equipment in the basement. After finding the right frequency, Abby successfully contacts the Fireflies and identifies herself. She learns that the Fireflies are regrouping at a base at Catalina Island and have amassed 200 members. Abby is pleased and tells the operator to expect her and Lev soon. They are overjoyed and leave the house, but they are immediately ambushed by the Rattlers. Lev is knocked out by the patrol's leader, while Abby is beaten by another Rattler, and they're both knocked out. The leader deemed them a good catch and enslaved them for several months. While enslaved, Abby and Lev are defiant towards their captors and eventually attempt to escape. Their escape fails, and the Rattlers tie them to the pillars, wood pilings on the beach, where they are left to the elements and starve to die. To Abby's surprise, Ellie finds and frees her. While they are strung up on the pillars, Abby releases the alive but weak Lev and carries him in their arms to nearby boats that the three can use to escape the resort. Abby lays Lev in one of the boats while Ellie drops her supplies in another. But before the three can part ways, Ellie demands that Abby fight her. Abby refuses, even after Ellie throws her to the ground. However, Ellie threatens the unconscious Lev at knife point to force Abby to fight. The two, even though exhausted and weak, fight to the death despite Abby's efforts of biting two of Ellie's fingers off. That latter overpowers and begins to drown her. However, just as Abby's about to die, Ellie has a flashback of smiling Joel and decides to spare Abby. Ellie then tells Abby to leave and take Lev with her, and Abby and Lev leave Ellie behind in the water for Catalina Island. And that's pretty much the end of, Abby, and, as we know it. And a potential Last of Us Part 3 situation, if The Last of Us Part 3 comes out. We would be following, I only imagine it would be following Lev and Abby in their journey, forward with the Fireflies and stuff. Now, I already talked about, pretty much what happened with Ellie after, she went home and the Ellie character analysis. Now, we're going to be talking, to kind of wrap this character analysis up, we're going to be talking about pretty much her personality. Abby's pretty tough, but she has a soft spot, just pretty much like everybody else. For Manny, which Manny is one of the WLF soldiers, and she's pretty. I think she's pretty cool. Just besides all the stuff she did, she's tough. She definitely lifts weights. She definitely goes to the gym. She's pretty buff, which is people. I had something to say about that, but never mind. But now, personally, after a few playthroughs, with my second playthrough, understanding why Abby killed Joel, I do understand it, and I think maybe she was right to do that. And a lot of Last of Us fans were mad after finding out that the whole point of the game, mentioned it in the Ellie character analysis, but Ellie didn't kill Abby. But I understand it. It's the cycle of violence. The violence, because if Ellie killed Abby, Lev would want to just go after Ellie, and if Lev killed Ellie, then everybody in Jackson would just want to. It's vice versa, it would just, go on forever and ever. It's a never-ending cycle of violence. So Ellie made the right choice, I think, even though I was mad my first playthrough. But after understanding the game more and kind of getting into it, I understand why both perspectives. So I think they were both justified for doing what they were, doing what they did, Abby and Ellie. So I think it's pretty, I've come to accept the fact of why they did what they did, So, yeah. But it's been a long character analysis. I really got into it, and more character analysis are probably going to be longer because I'm probably going to be getting into stuff more. But yeah, hopefully you guys are enjoying the series. Make sure to subscribe for more content, like video, all the good stuff. Discord, Twitch, Instagram, links in the description. Don't forget that I'm live streaming this Sunday, 3 o'clock p.m. 3 o'clock p.m. Eastern. This video comes out on Friday. So yeah, look forward to that, and I'll see you guys in the next video.